So it's a summer Capricorn full moon. It's coming right up here on 3 July, and it's a very interesting full moon because the transiting sky right now is so splayed out with the dependencies of the planets. So this full moon really is a kind of a moment of fullness and of a heightened sense of activity, and it comes in a pivotal month of astrology here in 2023 this month. So full moon in Capricorn, ruled by Mars, ruled by Saturn. What might this be telling us? What kind of symbol set are we navigating? Stay tuned. We're going to break down the full moon in Capricorn chart. All right, another video of transiting astrology. My name's SJ Anderson. This is my channel. Welcome here. I break down astrology here. I talk about all kinds of stuff. One of the things I love doing is looking at the new moon and full moons. This is something I've always done. My channel shifted often during the years I've been doing YouTube videos, but what's been consistent are these syzygy videos, new moons, full moons. It's a lovely way to engage in the ongoing and transiting astrology. And this one's interesting because, like I was saying before, the July is such a potent month. I mean, July brings us the nodes shifting into a new axis. It brings us the retrograde station of Venus. There's a certain sense here that there's a sort of peak in some ways of a few cycles in July that we shift into a period of adjustment and delay by the time this month is over. And so as a lunation cycle will include that full moon and new moon, we get this full moon kind of completion moment with this syzygy, and then we settle into that waning energy. Big chunk of July, it's like over 2 weeks, will be defined by the energy of this full moon in Capricorn. The other thing I think is important when talking full moons are just how much of a peak and a cathartic expansion and release moment that they can be. Often in the lunation cycle, the full moon, it really is that kind of burst of energy, that fullness that then we release into. And then we're resting and healing from that a moment of fullness. And you can see it in the world right now, I think, with these protests in France. I hope they can resolve soon and things can settle there. But it really is a peaking of energy as we get into this full moon weekend. And it's just an example. And I think particularly it relates to the archetype of Capricorn. You see these two images I've generated here for this full moon, and it's red. I picked these because of the color red. We have to acknowledge that Mars, as the exaltation ruler of Capricorn, brings the kind of passionate movement, action, sometimes not as thought-oriented. It's more just doing from passion as we expand into a full moon in Capricorn, ruled by Mars, while it's in Leo. I think it's quite useful to acknowledge Mars's role here in this moment of fullness right here in summer. All right, first things first, this full moon, 3 July, Monday, 11:38 a.m. UTC, so it'll be early in the morning, North America, right as the week starts. You'll be asleep if you have normal sleeping hours in North America into that morning on Monday. This full moon peaks. And in Asia and down under, you'll be maybe into your day on Monday and towards the evening when this full moon peaks. But it's a full moon in Capricorn ruled by Mars in Leo. And you can see here, Mars in Leo is averse to the moon. There's an aversion here. And so this kind of passionate, fiery Mars-Venus conjunction that's just separating now, that was reaching its fullness over this full moon weekend and into the Monday perfection of this full moon. And they're in the fire sign Leo, where it's just all about, this is who I am, this is my energy and power, and showing that to the world and actively defending either values, ideals, or people you love. That Mars-Venus combination can really be a defense energy. And expressing through Leo, it certainly can be a defense of things that we hold close to our hearts and people that we love and things that we believe in. Or if we're maybe not as in touch with ourselves, it could just be a release of energy around, passions. And I think we've seen that again, like with these protests that are happening right now as I record this and in the last day or two. But that's a major ruler because it's the exaltation lord of Capricorn. You see Mars there with Venus. And then you have Saturn and Pisces. And this is the part of the chart I really think can be supportive on the one hand, that the domicile lord has this close sextile, receiving this full moon, settling it, grounding it in a certain way into these waters of Pisces. The confusion, but at the same time creative, expansive, surreal waters of Pisces, this creative, artful Pisces, which is some of my favorite energy. It really defines the moment we're in so many ways. And that Saturn, again, ruled by Jupiter, by sextile. So it has the support from Jupiter, and then that Saturn ruled by Venus, again, averse to Saturn. So this is a primary thing about the chart. It's that the two Leo planets rule the moon and rule Saturn, and they're averse to the moon and Saturn. And Saturn rules the moon. So this kind of expansive, passionate, fiery expression of self and defense that might not be as logical, it's just feeling. That is operating here at the same time that we may be needing to ground for comfort and safety in more imaginative, foundational realms. And there's tension there. And that's certainly the nature of the moon in Capricorn. The moon there is ruled by the two malefic planets. It's the sign of the moon's exile or detriment, or antithesis is another name people are using these days. I like exile, but detriment is more commonly used in recent years. And it's just a sign where the moon has to express through energies that it isn't always comfortable with. And that's the Mars-Saturn energies. So we generally think that the moon is rough there. The thing is, the moon doesn't want to deal with roughness. The mother, the home, and the body, we like those to be nurturing and nourishing and comforting. And when you have Mars and Saturn, you're talking about challenging struggles and ordeals that force us into building new foundations. You're talking about action that's fast and breaks us out from our stasis, things the moon just doesn't jibe with quite well. And that's why you get this tension, and it's built here right in the chart. We're seeing it in the news with this moment in France that is peaking here right as I record this and into the last few days. The upside of a Capricorn moon, though, every planet, no matter what sign it's in, has a power that only that combination of symbols has access to. And you've got the Capricorn moon upside is the toughness of the moon. That moon will toughen you up. And it's a workhorse moon. I mean, Mars and Saturn together are the work that we deploy for long-term gains. It's the effort and work that Mars and Saturn, when they combine, allow us to give to the world and give to ourselves. It's not always easy energy. Sometimes can strip us away of comfort, and then we're forced into the mines, so to speak, or long-term, regular building activities. So this Capricorn moon is certainly one that knows how to navigate endurance and power. And people that have a Capricorn moon, they're powerful people that have no endurance and no strength. The character, I've been watching the TV show Silo. I think some of you are watching it too, and I may have even mentioned it here before. The lead character in that show, Nichols is her last name, the first name's escaping me, but it's the perfect embodiment of a Capricorn moon, because this character, this is early in the series, ends up working in the basement of the silo, the bottom levels on this generator. It's all about fire, and she's very tough and strong. As a perfect way into Capricorn moon symbolism, it's a working endurance, but powerful energy. So check out Silo if you haven't. I've really enjoyed the 10 episodes of the show. Very well done. All right, just to come back into the chart, there's some real beauty that exists in this chart too. It's not just endurance and suffering here in the chart. We've got trines and sextiles galore. And when you look at this, the moon in Capricorn closely separates from a trine from Jupiter and Taurus, separating from Saturn and Pisces. And those two planets are still sextiling each other. And then Jupiter is sextiling the Sun and Mercury still. And so you can see here, it's this beautiful splay of trines and sextiles between the Capricorn moon, Saturn and Pisces, Jupiter and Taurus, the Sun and Mercury in Cancer. We love all of those planets working in concert and a supportive flow with each other. And so what do I have here? Domicile tree flow is expansive here as well. And this is what I was talking about in the introduction. Look at this. Every planet has a role in the domicile tree as a final dispositor of some type, except for Mercury and Mars. Venus, if you just start anywhere with a domicile tree, and you have Leo ruled by the Sun by domicile, the Sun ruled by the Moon ruled by Saturn, Saturn ruled by Jupiter, Jupiter ruled by Venus, and now we're back in that loop. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 co-final dispositors. That's a lot of support from a lot of planets sharing the burdens of this chart. And a lot of things have a kind of an assignment or assigned responsibility. Sometimes that can be very, very nice in an activity, because it means there's various house topics working in flow or conjunction with each other, and especially when so many are in a trine and sextile relationship. So what do I have here? The spreading out of energy focus. And it may be great to have shared burdens. And that's why the Capricorn moon, yes, ruled by malefics in this tough moon of endurance, but it has a lot of partners to spread out and share that responsibility with. And you can see here how it's just like a flower fully bloomed, the planets in this chart. There's not a lot of constriction or focus on one sector or one quadrant. It's spread out. And so just keep that in mind. Maybe we could dance through all of these symbols. You know, you have the Pisces Saturn, that relies on the Jupiter and Taurus, you know, the truth in nature and the wonderment of the natural world. That gives way to the passions of self and defending, you know, who we are, and the relational heat. That gives back over to, you know, the beauty and shining light in our home life and in the fundamental nature of reality and the magical side of life. And then that gives itself over to endurance. So there's this flow between all of these beautiful symbolic energies. I love when you see that in a chart. All right, I was alluding to this earlier, but Venus is now separating from Mars by the time the full moon perfects. And so you may see what kinds of things now are separating in your world. And you may have been feeling this over the last week or two. I know I have. I mean, my whole life sort of changed a little bit. A lot of things that were important in June in the first part are now sort of dissipating, and I can see clearly what the path ahead will be for some of the themes of my summer and my astrology. So you might be seeing some of that in your own world. It's getting closer to a turn inward time where we need to give space for Venus's rebirth in Leo. That's what that Venus retrograde will be. The last video I did was all about that Sun, Venus, Leo symbolism of the rejuvenating the heart, purifying the motive of our being and the love that we can generate. We're getting into that now by the time this full moon hits and in the aftermath of it. And this full moon highlights, I think, this because it's right as the separation begins. Mars rules the full moon too by exaltation. And so that Mars is now leaving Venus behind. That's built in to some of the primary ruling energy of the chart. And both are averse to the moon, Mars and Venus. So maybe this could be subtle, or and some of the other energies take over. But I think it could, you might be feeling it. I know I've been. I'm happy actually to see some things sort of dissipating in a way, and some renewed focus of like, okay, this is where I want to spend my retrograde energy. This is how I want to endure. This is how I want to structure my energy. This is how I want to get productive. All of that I'm feeling very, very strongly. Juliette Nichols is the character in Silo. This is how I want to be Juliette Nichols in my own little world. You know, how I want to work and effort and commit to things and put in the time, effort, and energy. I think those are major themes here in this full moon moment. Okay, and I want to just come back here. The planets in this full moon are splayed wide, like we looked at earlier. There's a lot of different quadrants and signs that have activation, 5 planets as co-final dispositors. It's the idea of expansive fullness, but it fits with the summer theme. You know, Venus at the end of its cycle, the fullness of the Venus cycle, it's about to die here in July. It fits with the Jupiter-Saturn sextile that just peaked. That was the fullness of those 2 great planets, you know, meeting in this beautiful sextile that they'll have only one time. And then I wanted to bring this tweet. It was from 2022, early 2022, but it showed that this is the Barbeau Planetary Cyclic Index. Andre Barbeau, astrologer, predicted the pandemic. I've talked so much about him on my channel and more in the last video. But the basic of his index was that when the outer planets got close together, it was a low. He just measured the degrees. And then when they got splayed apart, it was a high. And he saw the low points as more tension and the high points as more expansive. And so you can just see this kind of breathing that the planets do in their positions in the zodiac as we measure the distances between them. That's what's happening now with this full moon. It's very expansive. A full breath of this kind of beauty of life here, summer of love, summer 2023, and then we're going to exhale and contract here as we get into some of the later energies later this year. So just enjoy this month, enjoy this moment. I hope you have been. June here has been some of the best astrology of the year, and I hope you've had a lovely, lovely June, and I've had a lot going on that we'll look back on. We make memories. It's one of my favorite life philosophies. I hope you've made some memories and made things, deployed your creativity in the ways that only you can. And that's, of course, one of the major themes. Jupiter, Saturn, creativity, Taurus, Pisces, 2 creative signs as they sextile and support each other. Deep, profound revelations and foundations around the creative act. Mars and Venus is a firepower that's waning now, but that's that creative, passionate fire energy that we talked about earlier, of self and of defense. And then the Sun, Mercury, and Cancer, that magic of reality, the true nature of reality. I laid all this out earlier, but here it is again on this slide. Okay, another part of this moment is that there are no planets in air signs for a bit here. It's until Mars enters Libra in August that a non-moon planet enters an air sign. That's how long we have with no air. The moon, of course, every few days, 3 times a month, will enter an air sign. But just think about what this might mean symbolically. I was tweeting the last few days, there was some air traffic control issues in America, and a lot of planes were grounded, flights were canceled. I was like, no planets in air signs. But you may be feeling that the mental side, the deep analytics and trying to articulate or even write or think or speak or whatever your Mercury is, play, children, youth, fun, games, business activity, that there's no planets in air signs. It might be a time to de-emphasize some of those things and instead center feeling and intuition, acting from non-rational places. This is that Pisces Saturn story and the Earth Jupiter, the Taurus Jupiter. It's very much visceral, bodily, intuitive, and feeling based. This is what we might want to center as a primary concern. And then when you get the fire energy, when Mercury and the Sun will be in Leo while Mars is in Virgo later on, it's fire-water combination. It's intuitive, and then it's the passions that are intuitive. That's the beauty of the fire-water combination, and that will dominate. Those two elements are really taking center stage here. But non-rational, intuitive action, feeling-based modalities, that's what I think will define July and then into August, before we get more of an air focus with Mars' entry into Libra. And remember, Capricorn moon, it's endurance, it's necessity. Those are the motivations and the ways of being, rather than some kind of deliberation-based intellectual model. It's necessity, endurance, and feeling. Okay, so just 2 elections I want to share for this half of the lunation. The first is an Aries moon trine Venus that arrives on 10 July, 3:22 UTC time, and that's in the afternoon, so 15:22. This is a cool moon because it's an Aries moon, and it makes a trine exactly to Venus and Leo, the last trine, fire trine that the moon will make while Venus is still in direct motion, and Mars will just shift it into Virgo. And so there's a little bit of a break between that Venus-Mars co-presence now into more grounded Mars, Virgoan Mars, a cooler Mars. Also, the Sun in Cancer is ruled by the Moon in Aries, which is ruled by the Sun in Cancer. So there's a beautiful reception between the Moon and the Sun here with this waning quarter moon. So you might use this for like moving homes or being with family, things of settling down and relaxing and all of that more home-based activity. Family planning or actions to enjoy close friends, deep occultism here as we're sort of waning. You might go inward. This could be a good transit to prepare some of that inward action and inward way of being, that non-rational stuff I was just talking about. 13 days away from the retrograde station of Venus, but it's about to enter the degree of its retrograde station. So this could be good, just preparatory winding down. I say identity and action fuse, and that we're knowing one's role within the bigger context. I think that can be how the identity-orientative model of Aries will fuel and feed with the trine to identity-based Leo, and then this looping mutual reception with the Sun and Moon in cardinal signs. It can be an action-based moment here, where we kind of see the context and are moving in maybe a softer way, but still taking action, still moving forward. All right, and then the last election, I think this chart might be a little bit better in a certain way, but the fixed signs, this is a major thing. I'll be talking about it all the time for a little bit here, but now that Mars is in Virgo, look at this. You have 2 benefics in the fixed axis, and this will remain until October 9 when Venus leaves Leo. No malefic at all, because you've got now both malefics in the mutable axis opposing each other. I'll break all that down in a separate video. That's a big tense aspect here coming up. But I want to focus on this election, which is that your fixed signs emerge as central players for the summer now, even more central than they've been. And the nodes will also enter Aries Libra soon, so they'll be out of the fixed axis. Basically, it's only benefics in the fixed axis, and none of those challenging or strange energies are going to be there. Where is the fixed axis in your chart? What houses does the fixed axis comprise? What whole sign houses? But creativity, beneficence, hope, visioning, all of the abundance that the benefic planets imply, they come on strongly here in Leo Taurus. I've been feeling the Leo Taurus sectors very strongly. And I think when Mars leaves and the nodes leave, we might see the full flowering of some of that beautiful stuff that's been building. And particularly when the station direct of Venus happens in early September, it's double benefic in the fixed axis, both direct. Venus reborn. I'm looking for September to be a strong player for the fixed signs. a strong, moment of time where things really can come through in a positive way. The flywheel of self-knowing, that is the Venus and Leo, the needs of Taurus with Jupiter there, that we know what we need. We have a really great acknowledgement of our physical needs, our creative needs, and some of our needs of selfhood at a deep level. That's the major theme here. And this election triggers it because the moon is applying to Jupiter in this chart, 11 July, 1654 UTC. And you can get it here on the descendant. I like this one if I was having to pick something, maybe a little bit better than that moon trine Venus, because in this chart, the moon is its own exaltation ruler. And it's in that beautiful mutual reception, also with the sun. So enjoy these two moments here. I think early next week, it's 10 and 11 July, some sweet astrology there emerging early next week. Okay, that's it. That's the full moon in Capricorn video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful full moon in Capricorn. If it's more endurance and toughness for you than it is that creative flow or that supportive creative flow, and it's okay. These energies are always changing, and sometimes when we go through difficult challenges, it's learning is the ultimate purpose. We learn what we need, and we learn how to do it better next time. I think we have to think about life as a growth opportunity, as one long growth opportunity. We're trying to get better, trying to heal, trying to love better. And that might just be what this is sometimes, with life in general and with astrology transits in particular. And you can always go to my website, sjanderson144.com. I've got a new website. I've updated my website, actually. Kind of a big change for me. But if you want to schedule an astrology reading, you can just click here to schedule a reading right at the top, the first link right at the top. That'll take you right to my page where all of the information about readings and where you can just click buttons. It just says schedule. But I got a new front page of my website. I hope you enjoy it. I made this for everyone. So at any time, you can go to sjanderson144.com and you can see what signs the 7 traditional planets are in. And if you scroll down, you can see the tarot correspondences, always updated in real time for the shifting nature of the planets. All right, so take care. Have a wonderful full moon. We'll talk really soon. Peace.